Right, so Geordie Journos at St James's Park, the bowels of St James's Park, after Newcastle United.
You tried your best to not be in the bowels, but
I did. We were going to try and do a video outside, but we got a slap on the wrist. Get back inside, Geordie Journos. The thought of being crafty, trying to sneak back outside, but as you know, the shutters have been closed on the pitch side videos.
Data core rules.
Season. Yes, I think that's one thing to address actually before we go to the game itself. Is I've had so many people asking, where's your lives, Liam? Do a live, do whatever. I literally have had my hands tied. We all have them. I can't do lives. I want to do lives so much. One thing I thought about potentially doing, I'll have to revisit it close at the time, is Champions League lives could be a thing. Maybe not the home, but definitely I think away I'll try Champions League lives. So do stay tuned for that. I'll make sure I signpost it and things like that in the road. But there's no reason why I couldn't do one kicking off somewhere in Brussels potentially. As long as we get tickets, like. We should.
We'll be there in some way, shape or form, so that's good news.
We're all definitely going to Brussels. We should get tickets anyway. We should. We normally do. Right, about that one then. Come to you first, Jordan. Newcastle United 1. Nick Woltemade 1. Wolverhampton Wanderers 0.
Yeah, starting with the game first, I thought the first half was, I would say, probably evenly matched, I would say. Newcastle maybe shaded it, but Wolves had some really good chances in that first half. Nick Pope 2 saves after a minute. So I thought it was an even first half, if not Newcastle shaded. Second half, so nervy.
Tough watch, wasn't it?
Really was. I think Newcastle started all right, but then sort of petered out a little bit. Substitutes came on. Newcastle didn't really improve from the substitutes. I think got worse. And at the end they sort of held on. But of course, the main talking point from the day is Nick Woltemade, and I really liked what I seen from him. Not just his goal, which was a fantastic header, but his overall play as well. I thought his link-up play and hold-up play was excellent. So a few question marks over maybe coming into the game because he hadn't played at this level before. And we're seeing a player there, I feel like, who held his own and led the line really, really well.
Was it a case, Dom, today of just making sure, because they hadn't won a game since May, was it just a case of making sure that they got this one over the line by hook or by crook?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you include pre-season in that. They haven't won a single game since that Chelsea win back in May, as you say. So, yeah, I don't think it was a bad performance by any means. It probably, they played better against Liverpool and didn't win the game. They lost the game. Played better probably against Aston Villa and didn't win the game. But today it was just a case, I think the quality probably shone through. Good cross from Jacob Murphy. Nick Woltemade, great header. Probably the type of header only a 6'6" striker, almost leaning back, finds the top left-hand corner.
He did it well though, didn't he?
Yeah.
It was really, really clever.
And all the talk of Nick Woltemade is big man, very good with his feet, which we saw, and we were seeing that early on in the game. And I think you take away from his goal, he still had a good performance, but his height, his aerial threat, actually, it was good to see that as well, because that's not something that's necessarily been highlighted, despite his obvious aerial threat, if you know what I mean. So yeah, that was a real positive to get the win, to have who is now by default almost your talisman striker leading the line, who there's a lot of pressure on his shoulder. The fact he stood up to that, and I think in the first half didn't really put a foot wrong at all. He was linking play up, he was dropping deep, he was moving the ball well, even with the physicality of Wolves' centre-backs. He was standing up to it, he was drawing a few fouls. I think it was a really clever performance from him, and a quietly effective performance before his goal, and then obviously with the match winner at the end. So all in all, a very good day for him individually. And then Newcastle United, you just accept the 3 points, you take it, and ultimately the defensive work in the second half shines through, because I mean 4 games in, 3 clean sheets. For me,
I thought this was probably the worst defensive performance.
I think they gave Wolves a lot of chances, as
chances
Jordan said. I'd say Nick Pope only made 2 saves, but they did give Wolves a lot of openings. But I think Dan Burn and Fabian Schär are undroppable at the moment. I think Nick Woltemade will rightly grab the headlines. Sandro Tonali was, after a shaky start, he gave the ball away really cheaply at one point early on in the game. Didn't put a foot wrong after that and covered every blade of grass. I thought he was excellent.
How good was Fabian Schär the day?
He was.
You wrestled with giving him... Did you give him man of the match in the end?
Yes.
Yeah,
but
I thought it was excellent.
It was only because I think if Nick Woltemade stayed on the pitch and carried that momentum into the second half, he didn't really do much in the second half. It was a 9 out of 10 first half performance. and then probably a 6 out of 10 second half performance from him.
Yeah.
And that's no slight on him. It was a great debut. Fabian Schär, clean sheet, didn't put a foot wrong. And that, when it looked a bit shaky towards the end, his little piece of skill when Anthony Elanga looked like he maybe messed it up and gave the ball away, Fabian Schär comes in, cleans it up. Class.
I've got to say this was more about the optics and feelings today rather than probably the analysis of who did what and when and how. For me, it was more about this team. They've got some really tough challenges ahead. Go to Bournemouth next week in the Premier League. Barcelona, of course, come here on Thursday night. Then they've got Arsenal in the Premier League after that. The tough challenges are still ahead of them, even though they had, on paper, a difficult-ish start. This wasn't a day. This was a bank at 3 points, and they went and did it. So, for me, it's more about the feeling of taking pressure off. I think there's been a lot of clouds over this football club this summer, and there was still question marks. You mentioned it. Has the player got the ability to step into a Premier League team and perform? Can he score at this level? I mean, he looked shaky again in the Germany team. He looked isolated. It looked it was a hard watching WOLTEMADE in those Germany games. You watched both games. I watched one. It was tough. And you did you almost wish you hadn't watched them. I remember saying that to you. I wish I hadn't watched that game because then I was kind of like, oh God, I've got more questions than answers. He answered everything there for me today. I'm going to take the opposition into the equation and look, you've got to win this occasion. They'll finish near the bottom. They weren't as bad as I thought they were, but the quality they had none. They've lost a lot of quality. You can't make up for some of the quality they've lost at the level they're at. So you've got to take that into the equation and say, it was against limited opposition largely. It
was an ideal game for him in a lot of ways.
It was more, like I say, go back to the feelings. We let the feelings rush over in the press box when he scored, didn't we? We were sort of like a little bit.
So pleased.
That's what I mean. It was the feeling. The win mattered more than the performance. Him getting off to a start after the clouds have been around this football club. Can he replace Alexander Isak? Well, he's not like Alexander Isak. He's a different kind of. Is he a striker? Is he a 10? Honestly, there's been so many questions for him. Within half an hour, did it 8 minutes faster than that bloke did on his debut.
Taking the small wins.
No, he did. I like that.
Yeah.
I really like that. But to do it so early. The confidence that gave, you could feel it in this ground, the joy that everybody had. We were just sort of like, it was explosion, and that mattered today. Him scoring mattered more than anything else, as well as just winning by any means possible, because it's a really difficult thing to break sometimes when you can't remember how to win. This team had forgot how to win football matches. It hadn't been able to do that for a long time. Yeah. Last two games of the Premier League season last season, apart from a kick around on the training ground against Carlisle, the rest of against any meaningful opposition in the summer couldn't beat anybody or get close to beat anybody. And then again at the start of this season, they literally left so many points out. They're playing against Aston Villa team who are arguably one of the worst teams in the Premier League on form at the moment, and couldn't beat them, even though on paper if they finish 7th, 6th, 7th, 8th on paper at the end of the season, you'll say that was a good point, but at the moment it's not a good point. Good time to play Villa, couldn't beat them because we had our own problems in terms of striker, etc. Not beating one of the newly promoted sides leaves you 2 points down already, because last season they beat all of the newly promoted sides away from home.
That was a big strength.
And at home. They haven't been able to do that this time. Look, Liverpool. Did they drew with Liverpool here last year? So a point down in terms of where they are last season. So that's 3 points down on where they were. Really, when you think, oh no, because they lost to Villa. 2 points down on where they were. They're just back a bit of parity. You need to win that game. You went and won that game. I think it's good. I think it's positive. It'll not go down in any record books or it was a great result, a great performance. It wasn't. It was pretty average, and it could have went either way. Being brutally honest, they were only a set piece or a good free kick away from getting a 1-0 draw, and it was a little bit nervy. The levels dropped when the substitutes were made, and we've talked about it. Well, have we maybe been a little bit of a false sense of security when we're talking about the strengthening in the summer, because all of a sudden you've only lost 2 of the players to strengthen with, and you're back to a bench where it's like, how do you affect the game in a forward sense? If you need to, that are very limited. That's why I think Wissa in many ways is such a. I tweeted it out from your tweet and said it. Producer, he was the man who almost really saved the transfer window. They needed a Premier League ready centre forward. Now everything that WOLTEMADE has done there is brilliant, but he needs help as well, and it's going to be really challenging if he has to start the next 10 to 12 games. I'm not saying that's definitely going to happen. I'll say there's been rumour, even just being here at this football ground, there's been rumour and counter rumour about it's an ACL problem. It isn't an ACL problem. He might be fit in 2 weeks' time. He might be out ages. There's literally all sorts, and we still don't really know the crux of what the problem is.
Eddie Howe doesn't know either.
Well, that's what he said.
Well, Eddie Howe said he doesn't know. The fact he didn't give an update, maybe it's one to monitor. The fact he wasn't able to give an update when Wissa had that scan this morning.
Yeah.
It is very Eddie Howe, that though, isn't it? The fact that he might not have even asked.
Playing his cards, or keeping his cards close to his chest, but I think one thing that probably is clear, it's not out of the realms of, well, it's obvious that Johan Wissa won't be available for the Barcelona game, I think.
Yeah, he's definitely going to miss a few, I think, don't we? And the fear it will be longer, which is a concern, but we don't know that yet.
Yeah, but today's game just relieves that bit of pressure. There was a lot of pressure on Nick Woltemade to deliver, because the alternative is non-existent, really. It's Anthony Gordon dragging him into the middle where he doesn't want to be, and he's still out for the Bournemouth game next week. Probably comes in against Barcelona, but yeah, the manner Newcastle won today, albeit not perfect in terms of the performance, was perfect on paper. Yeah. The man who scored, the clean sheet, and the fact they got 3 points.
Yeah, and that's one of the hardest things about going back to that idea about the strengthening of the window. They've got a centre-half there who's German international. They've got Sven Botman, who just... I mean, it's got to come a time where you say, is he really going to break into the team? Because he should be. But you kind of take the two centre-halves out. Two centre-halves have been outstanding for quite some time now. How the hell do you drop them two? Yeah. Trippier as a leader at right-back. I thought Livermore was patchy today, but...
Had a bad second half.
Very patchy today.
Very lethargic.
He set high standard in the opening 3 games. Went away with England, did well. Back today, it was poor by his standards. A slight off day by his standards, I'd say. But still a clean sheet.
There's players there that'll be clamouring for a bit of game time, and you're just unable to do it because you mentioned it, you've got to be brutally honest about this. The back 5 is near unchangeable, because I said today it was probably the worst defensive performance in keeping a clean sheet. It was probably the worst defensive performance because I thought that first 45 they almost gave more clear-cut openings to a team than they had in any of the previous 3 games.
It wasn't necessarily the back 5 that we were blaming for that. It was the midfield as well, because Wolves had an extra man in midfield. How many times was that ball in the midfield and it was a ball into the channel?
That's what you made the point about Tonali. It took a while for him to get a grasp of the game.
Once he did, it was
fine after that. But it was that first half hour where it was like, God, the extra man in midfield really told. But anyway, it's one of those things. I think, should we go to the ad break and then should we talk a little bit more in the end, because we'll not be able to be on here much longer. Should we talk a little bit about the selection dilemmas, if there is any, and who you would pick for Barcelona? Yeah, we'll go into that. Right, so here's Dom with a few of the Geordie Journos ads.
Comply IT Limited. Worrying about disposing of your old IT equipment? Don't be. Comply IT handle everything. Secure collection, detailed tracking, and certified data destruction. That's Comply IT Limited. 4 Rivers Financial Planning offer holistic financial advice for all stages of life, ensuring your plan remains robust and adaptable in the ever-changing world we live in.
Right, that was the proud sponsors of the Geordie Journos. 4 Rivers, of course, who've been on this journey since the very start. Proud sponsors. And of course, Comply IT with Dom's very catchy phrase that everybody seems to like. Somebody was saying that you bookmark when it is, just so they can get it out of their system.
Worried about your new German striker?
Don't be!
Well done.
Nick Woltemade scores goals.
Yes, worried about Johan Wissa. Maybe.
We'll come on to that.
Right, so and if you do want to be involved with the Geordie Journos, or you do want to help us out in any way, shape or form, and you want to have your name of your company or anything associated with the Geordie Journos, do just contact us. You know where we are. We're on Twitter. Drop a message. We've got an email as well, which you can find on the YouTube channel.
Links in the description.
Links down below. So do just get in touch if you want to be associated with the Geordie Journos. Right, Barcelona dilemmas. Came to you first this time. Dom. What's your team against Barcelona?
I'm not sure there's too many dilemmas. I think Anthony Gordon comes in. Harvey Barnes had another ineffective game today. I think there's maybe a potential dilemma on the right wing, but I think that dilemma got answered today with Jacob Murphy once again coming into the side. He's simple, he's effective. Assist today. I think in terms of a dependable right winger who does exactly what he says on the tin, I think you play him against Barcelona. He's not going to absolutely blitz past any players in the way you'd imagine or hope Anthony Elanga would, but puts it on a plate for Nick Woltemade, we're not complaining. So I think that question's been answered. I think Anthony Gordon comes back in the team.
Does he come straight back in?
I think so. On the left wing, he's played for England. He's sharp enough and is trained. So yeah, I think Anthony Gordon comes back in. Midfield three, I think you've got no real choice but to keep it the same as what it was today. Joe Linton was in and out of the game today, came off midway through the second half, but look, in these Champions League nights under the lights at St James's Park, that's his chance to shine and where he can really make a name for himself, and he's done it previously. So yeah, I'll put him in or keep him in. And then I would have wanted to see Lewis Hall today, we didn't.
Well, I was going to say the big question mark for me was, because obviously I've said about Hall as well, the big question mark for me going to this game was, and I even mentioned it to you guys, I wonder if it'll be Anthony Gordon through the middle against Barcelona on Thursday. I think Woltemade's performance today has underlined the fact it has to be Woltemade, and it will be. I did wonder, I thought, if he doesn't quite work, he doesn't gel, he struggles a little bit, I thought he'd just put Gordon in, won't he? Yeah. Which I didn't want to see. But everything seemed to work today, so it's a guarantee that it'll be Woltemade for an hour. I think. Does Anthony Gordon for me? I think he comes straight back in because I've been really unimpressed by Harvey Barnes this season. Harvey Barnes has been given a golden opportunity this season to grasp that left wing position by Gordon's madness, and he just hasn't. He hasn't looked anything like grabbing it. I think he's been really disappointing.
3 starts out of 4.
But he was out there because he was given a golden opportunity first because they didn't have a striker, so Gordon have to be shifted out there. Then Gordon literally gift wrapped that left wing position for him by a bit of over exuberance, I'll call it, against Liverpool. Howie Harvey, go and grab it. Yeah. Go and grab that.
Which he did back end of last season
he did.
when Gordon was out.
He did. I don't think he's got the same qualities or skill set as Anthony Gordon. I don't think they're really close. But it was a big opportunity for him to come in and make sure that position, make it hard for the manager. I don't think he's made it hard for Eddie Howe to bring Anthony Gordon back.
He's made it easy.
Yeah, I think he has. But that's the same for Elanga. Elanga was given that. You're the starting right winger. We'll just pay a lot of money for you. And within 2 games, Jacob Murphy's displaced him. I want to see better. I'm not writing anybody off or whatever. Barnes is a different situation with Elanga, totally. Barnes has had plenty of opportunities and plenty of time and is a squad player, and I think that's all he looks like. Elanga needs to be more than a squad player because you were brought in, let's be brutally honest, to replace Jacob Murphy, and Jacob Murphy's already quite easily took you out of the team and is going to keep you out of the team as well. The only way Elanga keeps getting in is just given it's a squad game. And he's going to have to play certain games because Eddie Howe needs to make sure that he rotates well, which is something he didn't do well 2 years ago. The rest of the team for me, I can't, like I mentioned earlier, with the back 5 working so well as a unit, I can't change it. And I wouldn't be, even though I think the back 5 formation, the Arsenal formation, will probably have its place at some point in the Champions League this season. I don't think at home on your first game back in the Champions League is the place for it. I think Eddie Howe will want to go and impose himself on Barcelona, his team to impose themselves and go and win a game at home. So I think it'll be the 4-3-3.
Yeah, can't agree. Can't agree. Can't disagree with anything you just said on the 2 sort of the wingers debate. I think the only change you make is Anthony Gordon on the left hand side. I want to see Lewis Hall back on the team, but can you drop Kieran Trippier? Can you drop Dean Livramento? I think it would be harsh on both players if you were.
This is a Kieran Trippier. I think Thursday night's a Kieran Trippier night.
He shows up for the big nights. Yeah, exactly. The midfield, I think if you actually had Jacob Ramsey in there, maybe there'd be a debate to be had. But as sort of Don mentioned with Joe Linton as well, it's his bread and butter nights like this under the lights, impose himself physically. So yeah, I think it's one change, and I think it's Harvey Barnes out and whoever in.
Gordon. I think if Lewis Hall came in today and did a job, did well, then maybe on Thursday night you could have made a case, but you're not bringing him in for his first start since February in a game of such high magnitude, really, when Tino Livramento, other than today where he was a little bit of an off day, but has generally done very well this season.
I think he was caught. He just was never quite in the right place at the right time today. Livramento. He was doing this stepping into midfield quite a lot, and then was getting caught out of position when they were on the. It just wasn't his day. I think Lewis Hall would have fitted perfectly today. He would have been brilliant in that position because there was a lot of Livramento stepping up into midfield. And that just suits Lewis Hall down the ground. We're seeing that all the way through last season. Look, it's not a bad position for Howe to have that he knows. He's literally got a potentially world-class full-back waiting to come straight back into the team. I bet he wishes he had a striker ready to come in and help Big Nick out up front as well, but it's not to be. Not to be. And we've just got to hope for some positive news on that. I don't know. I don't know. You get a good feeling on things and it doesn't feel good.
It doesn't feel good. No, but our feeling isn't fact, so
no, exactly.
We'll just have to wait.
Our feeling is irrelevant.
Yeah, exactly.
Thankfully, our feeling is irrelevant.
You couldn't write it though. A bloke who's never been injured for Brentford really is now. He's already missed the game.
He'll strangle us if you go down this avenue. I can't.
No. Okay, fine.
It's just very frustrating. We've got to wrap up.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm sorry not to cut it. We'll have to wrap up.
Yeah, it is. It is one of those where it's like, how the hell did that end up happening?
Yeah. It's frustrating.
In short, if he's out for a long period, you might as well not done the business on deadline day. They're just back to square one.
The fear of not replacing that man, the fear of not replacing him actually comes to pass in unfortunate circumstances. But anyway, we'll not dwell on that.
We'll wait and see.
It's a win. They got the win. We're happy. The sponsors are happy. The Geordie Journos are happy. Hopefully you're happy too, and we'll try and get this video up as soon as possible as well. I think the people here will be happy as well because we're actually finishing on time. Very rare. Very rare. Right. We were the Geordie Journos. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you may be watching this. Do like, comment, share, subscribe for all of your Geordie Journos content. And of course, as Dom likes to say, click the bell for all of your Geordie Journos content. We've been the Geordie Journos. That was a win. I'm waffling now. And the next time we'll see you, we'll probably be
back here
for Barcelona press conference.
Yes.
Right. We'll see you there.